We're going, our lesson tonight is from Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 27 through 28. And the title of our lesson is Warning to Israelites. Central Asian, Korean, Chinese, and Gog will destroy America. This is what Jeremiah 51, verse 27 through 29 is talking about for this Tuesday night Torah lesson study. Now, the day of reckoning has come for America. Just as Yahweh had foretold to Abraham in Genesis chapter 15, verse 13 through 14. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. The 400 years was completed between 1619 to 2019. Every year after 2019 has been a disaster year for America. As was foretold to Abraham, that after the 400 years, Yahweh would judge this nation. Now the day of reckoning has come upon America. Tonight's lesson, we'll look at the emergence of nations described in Jeremiah 51, verse 27 through 29, who will band together to destroy America. Jeremiah 51, verse 27 through 29. Set you up a standard in the land. Blow the trumpet among the nations. Prepare the nations against her. Call together against her the kingdoms of Ararat, Mini, and Ashkenaz. Appoint a captain against her. Cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And the land shall tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of Yahweh shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without an inhabitant. In verse 29 of Jeremiah 51, it says, every purpose of Yah shall be performed against Babylon. Then it says, his purpose is to make the land a desolation without an inhabitant. In verses 27 and 28, Yahweh describes nations he will use to devastate Babylon, America. These nations are called by their ancient names as Ararat, Mini, Ashkenaz, and Medes. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, the location of the people of Ararat was, quote, Mount Ararat, Turkish, Agridagi, a volcanic mass in extreme eastern Turkey, overlooking the point at which the frontiers of Turkey, Iran, and Armenia converge. The location of the people of Mini, according to Wikipedia, is Manea, or sometimes written as Mania in the Akkadian, Manai. Biblical Hebrew, Mini, was an ancient kingdom located in northwestern Iran, south of Lake Urmia, around the 10th to the 7th centuries BC. According to Bible Hut, Mini was a part of modern day Armenia, where it says Mini, a kingdom mentioned in Jeremiah 51:27, along with Ararat and Ashkenaz, as assailants of Babylon. It is identified with the Mani of the Assyrian inscriptions in close relationship with or part of Armenia. First century AD Hebrew historian Josephus says regarding the people of the Ashkenaz, he says, quote, Ashkenaz founded the Ashkenazians, who were called by the Greeks Regenians. The Ashkenaz live in the northwest of Asia Minor, in the region of the Black Sea. The swamps of Meotis appear on the map of the world. Now, according to the geneticist research group Frontiers in Genetics, they say ancient Ashkenaz is a region in northeastern Turkey that harbors 4 primeval villages whose names resemble Ashkenaz. According to Wikipedia, concerning who the Medes are today, it states the Medes were an ancient Iranian people who spoke the Median language and who inhabited an area known as Media between western and northern Iran. This is Wikipedia. So far, all these people are Turkic Central Asian people, meaning and Ashkenaz and Ararat. These are regions that are Central Asian people. Now, these people cover different countries today as Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Armenia, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, and even some of Pakistan. These are people of Central Asia. The Meni, Ararat, and Ashkenaz are all Turkic people of Central Asia. And according to the South China Post newspaper research, it says this about Meni, Ararat, Ashkenaz, Turkic ancestry. It says that modern languages ranging from Japanese and to Turkish and Mongolian may share a common ancestor from ancient China. So in essence, the root race of these people came from China. Now, they may not have the phenotype, that is the physical appearance like Chinese, but their genetic ancestry comes from China, even though their eyes may not have the same appearance as modern day Chinese do now. And the South China Post continues to say, an international team of researchers said languages from the Trans-Eurasian family, also known as Altaic, can be traced back to early millet farmers in the Lao Valley in what is now Northeast China, and its spread was driven by agriculture. The origins and degrees to which the 5 groups that make up the Trans-Eurasian family are related has long been an area of contention among scholars. But the team said that recent studies have shown a reliable core of evidence supporting the theory that they emerged from a common ancestor. So, based on genetic and archaeological and linguistic evidence and analysis, the researchers said the languages spread north and west into Siberia and into the Central Asian steppes and east into Korea and Japan as the farmers moved across Northeast Asia. A conclusion that challenges the traditional pastoralist hypothesis, which proposed the dispersal was led by nomads as they migrated away from the eastern steppe. This article in the South China Post connects Ararat, Mini, and the non-Jewish Ashkenaz Turkic peoples to origins related to the Chinese and Korean people. Thereby, this prophecy in Jeremiah 51, 27 through 29 must include China and North Korea as participants in the destruction of America that the prophet Isaiah declares in Isaiah 51, verse 27 through 29. The Medes in Isaiah 51, 28 are today the Iranians, who just now, as we speak, according to the IAEA Nuclear Watch Group, are now at the threshold of having a nuclear weapon as we speak. All right, all of these countries are now united in league with Russia's foreign policy against America, which is called in the Bible Babylon the Great. Now, some of these Central Asian countries that are called Mini, Ararat, and also Ashkenaz in ancient biblical times, they have modern names today like Kazakhstan and Tajikistan and Armenia. But they recently had a meeting with Putin. They recently met to draw around him as he's standing in opposition to America. This is fascinating because this is exactly what Jeremiah said would happen, that these nations would come together against the foreign policy of America. I have a clip here to show you that meeting with those countries that in ancient times would have been called Mini, Ararat, and that would have been called Ashkenaz. Stand by, I'm getting ready to pull this up. Here we go. This is a recent meeting, so check this out.
Я вас с этим событием поздравляю. Надеюсь, что организация, которая за предыдущие годы превратилась в полноценную международную структуру, будет развиваться и дальше, имея в виду и непростые времена, но хотелось бы отметить в этой связи, что и в 1992 и в 2002 году тоже были непростые времена, они не заканчиваются никогда. Но организация играет очень важную роль на постсоветском пространстве, стабилизирующую роль. Надеюсь, что в этом смысле ее возможности и влияние на ситуацию в зоне нашей ответственности будет только возрастать.
Okay, some of these countries are Kazakhstan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, These are
This is your
those
captain.
nations meeting with Putin right just not too long ago. They're discussing. Now they're speaking in their own languages, and I'm sorry for the lack of the translation with it. But this is a meeting of nations with Putin who comprise the regions of Mini, Ashkenaz, and Ararat. Armenia was present, and you can look at better representation of the meeting in English translation. So let me move on from there. Also, these nations, as they're pulling together with Russia against America, this is what Jeremiah said in his prophecy in chapter 51, verse 27, that they would be in league with them. And from the South China Post article that we read, you have to include China now and Korea, as that is North Korea, as banding together with that collective of people as well, since they're all interrelated ancestrally from common ancestors. So we're talking about a coalition of people that are lining up just as the prophet Jeremiah said would happen. I'm going to show you a clip of how close we are to this confrontation between the Central Asian, Chinese, and Russian coalition against America. It has already formed as Jeremiah explains it, though he's using ancient terms for these nation groups. We now have the data to show who those nation groups are in modern times. There was a meeting just last week that Joe Biden had when he went overseas to Korea. And as he went overseas to Korea, China and Russia flew nuclear jets, that is jets that can carry nuclear payload, and they flew near Biden. They were serving notice. Check this out. Now, this is a report from NBC. All right, now these are Russian and Chinese jets working together to make a point at the Asian Pacific meeting.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow
that Biden attended last week. They're serving notice. So this is further evidence of this coalition of nations described in Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 27, 28, and 29. They are arguing together to come against America. This is coming to that time. Also, Korea, North Korea, which is also genetically, ancestrally connected with those countries that met with Putin in Moscow, the Armenians and Kazakhstan people and those Central Asian nations. Korea is also related with them. So we're talking about a coalition with Russia of people of Central Asia and East Asia that are pretty much related to each other. And these are people that Jeremiah describes. in verse 28, and 27. So this is remarkable that we're able to see these things now. Let me play this. Right now, North Korea is launching missiles continually for the last week or so, and may be getting ready to do a nuclear bomb test any moment now. And America just responded yesterday to some missiles fired by North Korea that happened, and America and South Korea responded by shooting some of their own missiles. So it's heating up. Let me show you this.
Together launched 8 ballistic missiles into the sea on Monday. Eight ballistic missiles into the sea on Monday, a response to North Korean launches a day earlier. It's the second time in recent months that the US and its ally South Korea have jointly responded to similar moves from North Korea. Many see it as representing a hardening of Seoul's approach to Pyongyang.
A fiery early morning display that took all of 10 minutes. Its effects were meant to extend well into the future. The launches of 7 South Korean missiles and 1 American missile in a live fire exercise, a tit-for-tat reply to North Korea's launching of 8 missiles a day earlier. The response came as South Korea and its hawkish new president marked Memorial Day commemorations. Yoon Suk-yeol saying more than ever, global powers must work to contain North Korea.
North Korea's nuclear and missile threats are getting sophisticated. It fired various ballistic missiles yesterday. Its programs are reaching the level that threaten not only the peace of the Korean peninsula, but also Northeast Asia and the world.
All right, so you can see what's happening. These nations are gearing up for a war with America and its Asian allies, and even its European allies. Also, in addition to what's going on in Central Asia and the Far East, in coalition with Russia, there are the Medes, who are today the Iranians. Jeremiah calls them out. They have committed their allegiance to Putin of Russia in his stand and fight against American foreign policy. Also, let me show you a clip of that. The Iranian President Raisi met with Putin in Moscow. Stand by.
A festive welcome in Moscow for Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi, in town for a 2-day visit that included a meeting Wednesday with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
We cooperate on the international stage very closely. I'm not talking, meaning it is obvious that mainly thanks to our joint efforts, the Syrian government got help to overcome threats related to international terrorism.
The two countries are similarly situated. Both are in a pickle. Working together could help both. Russia, potentially facing tougher U.S. sanctions because of the crisis over Ukraine. And Iran, potentially facing tougher U.S. sanctions because of the impasse in nuclear talks in Vienna.
While we try to remove the sanctions, we are also pursuing mechanisms to neutralize any sanctions.
Iran is looking for a long-term Russian commitment, a 20-year cooperation agreement, possibly parallel to the 25-year deal Iran signed with China.
We, Iran and Russia, are in a unique situation that has created a considerable cooperation between the two countries against the West's unilateralism and American power.
All right, notice the president of Iran says that Iran is ready to come together with Russia and the coalition of the other nations, which includes China, North Korea, and the Central Asian republics. All of these nations including Iran. The prophet Jeremiah calls them all out well in advance of what you're seeing today. So we're seeing prophecy unfold before our eyes, and we must be aware and awake to what's transpiring there. Iran declares loyalty to Russia. Iran, in Jeremiah's prophecy, they're called the Medes in Jeremiah 51 and verse 28. So, according to Jeremiah, this Asian alliance against America is to be spearheaded by a captain that's described in verse 27 of chapter 51 of Jeremiah. And this captain is described as being a leader of a coalition of armies that is numerous like a horde of rough caterpillar locusts. And locusts move in the millions and swarm in the millions. And sometimes there's so many of them, they can black out the sky. When you're talking about coalitions between China, the Central Asian nations, North Korea and Russia and Iran, you're talking about a swarming number of people that would make up the majority of the people on this planet. Russia, China alone has 2 billion people. So you're talking something that Jeremiah foresaw would be a numerous coalition of armies gathering together around a leader or a captain. Now, in the Septuagint version of Amos 7:1, it identifies the leader of this huge, massive coalition that will crush America. In Amos 7, verse 1, it says in the Septuagint version, "Thus has Yah Elohim showed me, and behold, a swarm of locusts coming from the east, and behold, one caterpillar, King Gog." The prophet Amos says, this horde of armies, like locusts, will come from the east, and their leader is King Gog, G-O-G, Gog. Now, King Gog is the title described in the Hebrew of Ezekiel 38, verse 2, who is called the Prince of the Rosh in Hebrew, which is a derivation of the ancient name for the modern day Russian people. So you combine Ezekiel 28:2 with Jeremiah 51, verse 27 and 28, and you'll see that the captain of this coalition of these Asian nations, as China, North Korea, the Central Asian nations, as Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and countries such as Turkmenistan and Armenia. These countries banding together with Iran make a formidable coalition of armies that are led by this coalition coming together by the leader of Russia. And he is described by the title Gog, which is a title, not a personal name. In Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 2, "Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal, and prophesy against him." This is the New King James Version. "Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, Tubal, and prophesy against him." So Rosh is a word from which we get the latter day derivation for the word Russia. Now, the leader of the Russian people today is Vladimir Putin. He is the current God, which is a title the Bible gives for the leader of Russia in these latter days. Now, it is yet to be confirmed if Putin is the fulfillment of the Gog that's in Ezekiel 38:2. It's a title that can be used for any Russian leader, either himself or maybe there could be a successor to him. But according to Ezekiel 38 verse 2, this is a title for the leader of the Russians in the latter days. So far, though, it appears Putin appears to be a very likely candidate. Yet we'll have to wait and see, but it bears watching. Jeremiah says this Asiatic host that is aligning with Putin from China, North Korea, Iran, and the Central Asian nations that were once known in ancient times as Mene, Ararat, and Ashkenaz. Even now as we speak, these armies are rising from the east, just as the Septuagint version of Amos 7:1 says. They're coming like a horde of locusts in terms of numbers. And the distinct possibility of them raising up against America, we can see by the news clips that I've shown you of recent news. That's already in the process of happening. They are raising up against America. Now, ancient Babylon in the Bible times that was in Iraq in biblical times, it was never destroyed by a massive army like what we're talking about now. So Jeremiah was not addressing the Babylon of his time, 2,500 years ago, which was in Iraq, in the plains of Shinar, Iraq. But Jeremiah is prophesying against America, the mystery Babylon of the last days, in Revelation chapter 17 and verse 18. I have a warning for Israelites from this report that we just read. The warning is this: do not support or enlist against Russia for any kind of military operation. Do not support or enlist to fight Russia. Yahweh has assigned to them to fulfill his wrath on Babylon, America. So if you stand up and fight against Russia, you're going to be standing up against a nation that Yahweh is using for justice in the earth. And even though Russia may not be aligned to Yah, Yah uses nations very often that are not aligned with him, nonetheless, to fulfill his purpose in the earth. And that's what he's doing with Russia. So don't get in the way of Yah's work with Russia. Don't take sides in this. Israelites, just prepare to be ready to leave America. Begin to think and to prepare to be ready. I'm not saying for you to leave yet. Only Yah can give you that call. But I am saying prepare to be ready to leave America. And so in preparing to leave America, you don't have time to take sides in the tit for tat between Russia, America, and China. Don't fall into the news reports and other reports that somehow you've got to take sides in this. Your only side is with Yah and his plan to get you out of this country. Prepared to be ready to leave America, to go back to your homeland of Israel, as Jeremiah says in chapter 51, verse 42 and 50 of his book. It says in verse 42 of chapter 51 of Jeremiah, the sea is come upon Babylon. She is covered with the multitude of the waves thereof. And that's speaking about this huge army that is already emerging in the east. They have their eyes on America. And of America, it says they're coming up against her. It says her cities, that is America, will be a desolation, a dry land and a wilderness, a land wherein no man dwelleth, neither doth any man, son of man, pass thereby. Verse 43 of chapter 51 of Jeremiah. Then verse 44. Yahweh says, and I will punish Baal in Babylon, and will bring forth out of his mouth that which he hath swallowed up. See, Babylon swallowed us up as a people when they brought us into slavery. And the time of their judgment has come. And furthermore, nations will gradually begin stop flowing and trying to immigrate to America anymore, because the defense or the wall of Babylon shall fall. America does not have the capacity to defend itself against some of the newer weapons that Russia and China have developed, called supersonic missiles, that America's anti-missile defense system can't stop those. So the strategic wall of America's missile defense system is inadequate for the missiles now that China and Russia have. And then we read, Yahweh says, at that time, my people, verse 45, my people, go you out of the midst of her, that is, come out of the midst of America, Babylon, and deliver you every man his soul from the fierce anger of Yahweh. Verse 46, lest your heart faint, and you fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. Now there will be rumors of all kinds of destruction coming to America from all over the world. He says, don't let your heart be faint when you hear these things. Also, a rumor shall come 1 year. That is, there's going to be ebbs and flows of threats, some more severe than others. But here's a sign when you begin to know when the threats are really not just possibilities, but are imminent attacks on America. The imminent attacks that are coming on America from these Eastern nations is going to happen where it says, and after that in another year shall come a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. Violence in the land of America, ruler against ruler. It says America's going to break down into a civil war. And it's when America has an internal revolution, which could happen any day in the election system, as we saw January the 6th, where we saw a segment of America trying to ransack the Capitol to stop the election of Joe Biden. It may be way worse than that in this coming election this year, or even in the presidential year election in 2024. But it's when you see the breakdown of civil authority, which we saw a semblance of January 6, 2021, there will be a even bigger scale internal revolution than that, that will so distract America that it will be laid wide open for an attack from the East, from these foreign nations that Jeremiah calls out, that will destroy them. And it says here, verse 48, then the heaven and the earth and all that is in therein shall sing for Babylon, for the spoiler, the plunderers shall come unto her from the north, saith Yahweh. Countries like China, Russia, Iran in biblical times, in the proximity of Israel, those countries were called land of the north. So Jeremiah is speaking from the proximity of these nations as the land of the north, is they related to our country of Israel. But in regards to America, they're not necessarily north of America, but they're north of Israel, but they're from the east, and America is in the west. And it says that they will be coming to devastate America. And already the identities of these nations interconnected with the ancient names of ancient nations that Jeremiah said would do this to America in the latter days? They've already emerged. As verse 49, Jeremiah says, as Babylon has caused the slain of Israel to fall, as America caused us to fall in slavery, captivity, and oppression, so at Babylon shall fall the slain of all the earth. That is, this will be a world war when America falls that will cause an international fall and a world war all over the earth. But this is what Yahweh tells the Israelites as that time is approaching. Verse 50, you that have escaped the sword, go away. Stand not still. Remember Yahweh afar off, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. All right, the prophet is saying, those of us here in America, the Israelites are the captivity of this Babylon America. When these things emerge, as we're seeing, of America's enemies rising up against it, this is what Yah says. Remember him and let Jerusalem come in mind. That is, Yah says he has a plan. Before that attack that will devastate America take place, he has a plan to lead you out of America and place you in Jerusalem, in your homeland of Israel. Hallelujah. May it be so in the name of Yeshua. Hallelujah. Praise Yah.